all the clips from the budget hearings, and we just finished the budget hearings yesterday after 3 weeks of some intense hearings, I would say. They are all on my website, which is simply repstruzzi.com. So if anyone wants to see the questions that I've asked of the various departments, you can find all those on the website. Again, that's repstruzzi.com.
Well, as we think about the budget hearings, one of the things that came up earlier this week was Governor Wolf's proposal for minimum starting salaries for teachers in Pennsylvania's public schools, $45,000. Some of the starting salaries are way low, $18,500 at some school districts, including one in our area, Apollo Ridge. You had some questions during that hearing. What were the main issues of concern that you had about that proposal?
Well, as we're looking to balance a budget, the governor likes to spend money, and I think everyone appreciates and respects what teachers do, and I think that they truly do deserve a great starting wage in order to attract good talent here for our children to learn the best that they can. But when you're looking at these starting salaries, and you said it, there's really only one or two school districts within Indiana County that are already below $45,000 as a starting wage. I think you have to worry about what that does to people who are already making $45,000. So if you have been there for a number of years and you've worked your way up to above $45,000, how does that make you feel? And we had the same discussion related to the minimum wage. If you bump the minimum wage automatically up to $12 an hour, and you have people who have worked their way up to $12 an hour, doesn't that make everyone else want to raise? And deservedly so. So the concern is if you start new teachers in at $45,000, then the teachers who are already working for those school districts may want to have a raise as well. And so the concern that I raised was, what does that do to property taxes? Because these school boards, these school districts are going to have to come up with that money somehow. Yeah, there's $13 million proposed in the budget right now to cover that initial raise for some of these teachers up to $45,000. But moving forward, how do we pay for that? And I think, unfortunately, that's going to fall on the taxpayers. That's my concern. In a time when we're trying to eliminate property taxes, when we're trying to hold the line for senior citizens, any proposal that impacts people on a fixed income, and you all know the pain we've been through with property taxes here in Indiana County, it should be a concern.
Yeah, and the way contract language is written in future teacher contracts,
right,
that probably would be impacted by something like this if it became policy as well.
I believe it absolutely will, and I think that's part of the problem. And for me, being a freshman, it's been an exciting process to kind of work through all these budget issues and see how things really work in Harrisburg at times. And you see that the governor tries to put a lot of big ideas out there, but there aren't a lot of details. And again, it's an increase in spending. I had the opportunity yesterday to interview or ask some questions of the budget secretary. And one of the issues I brought up, which is another big one back here at home, is the proposal to take the operating costs for the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and the Department of Environmental Protection, take their operating costs out of the general fund and use special environmental funds to pay for those. That's raising a lot of alarms for people who work in these agencies here locally. And again, it gets to propose a balanced budget, not one that spends more money. And when I questioned the budget secretary on that, she said, well, we have to do what we can to balance the budget. And my thought was, well, if you need to balance the budget, how about we spend less? I mean, you don't just pull money from special funds to balance the budget. You need to have a balanced budget that the spending equals income. And I think that's a real concern for me as I work through this process. And again, it's been very exciting, very enlightening, and I'm hoping that I'm making a difference for the people of Indiana County.
Do you think a lot of what Governor Wolf does and others who want to increase spending is ask for much more than you are anticipating getting so that you can get what you really want?
Yeah, and I think that's part of you throw it against the wall and see what sticks sometimes. And I think that's unfortunate, though, because I don't like to play games with the taxpayer dollars. People work hard. They want to have trust in government to do the right thing. They want to have transparency. And when you do these sort of tax shifts and these different proposals that kind of just throw it out there like, hey, let's spend millions of dollars on this and millions of dollars on that, that should be a concern for everyone. It's a concern for me. I would like to see us be more transparent and say, this is how we're going to use your money. This is the best decisions that we can make. These are the wisest choices, not rolling the dice on a lot of this stuff. And I think that's unfair to the taxpayers.
As you have been rolling through the budget process with the Appropriations Committee, what have been some of the things that maybe have stuck out or surprised you about that whole budget process and some of the requests that come before the committee?
Well, I think the overall process to me is very compelling, and it really does fall to us on the Appropriations Committee to kind of hold the governor in check, because, again, you see there's a lot of ifs in this budget. And the big if for me that really is kind of scary in a way is this Restore PA initiative that he's been touting across Western Pennsylvania. And it basically puts the burden for our infrastructure improvements moving forward on the natural gas industry, and that's a backdoor severance tax in my view. He takes a lot of this stuff out of the budget. He's out there saying, well, we're going to do all these great things, but it's dependent on a severance tax. And that's alarming to me, because I know here in Indiana County, and I'm not going to support a severance tax, and to bank on that as far as our infrastructure improvements, that's a concern to me. I was very concerned just last week when we had the opportunity to interview Leslie Richards, the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, the situation with the Pennsylvania Turnpike not making their payments over the past few months, and you're chalking over $1 million at this point. And you're looking at construction improvement projects for PennDOT being much lower than they've been in recent years. So that's a concern. You find a lot of things when you start to ask questions of these secretaries of these various departments, what their real troubles are, what their real issues are, and a lot of it is just really digging in to find out why they're asking for the things that they're asking for, why they're proposing the things that they're asking for, and getting to the root of what we really need for Pennsylvania.
State Representative Jim Struzzi with us this morning here on Indiana in the Morning. Let's move away from the budget and on to other issues. Lieutenant Governor Fetterman has been going county to county in Pennsylvania, promising to visit all 67 counties to gauge legalization of recreational marijuana. What have you heard?
Well, from the number of constituents I've heard here in Indiana County, they're very much opposed to it. A lot of people fear what it could do related to law enforcement, and I know I've spoken with a lot of people in law enforcement who are concerned, because now you're going to have not only people who could be driving under the influence of alcohol, but other substances as well, and I think that should be a concern for everyone. I am personally not in favor of recreational marijuana. I think we do need to look at decriminalizing it to some extent, so that there's not the burden placed on our Department of Corrections related to people who are arrested for minor offenses related to marijuana. But the recreational stuff I have some concerns with, and I think there's a long process to work through here. I understand the benefits of medical marijuana, which I adamantly support, because I do believe it's helping a lot of people. But I have concerns when I hear about kids vaping in school right now and vaping marijuana and those types of things. I think legalizing it would just open the door to more abuses.
Well, one of the interesting things I heard was from law enforcement, and it had to do with the fact that there really is no measurable, comparable to driving under the influence of alcohol. There's no measurable field test that you can conduct for marijuana impairment, is there?
Right, and it's going to open the door to a lot more expense as well, because as we worked through the state police budget request a week or two ago, and the proposed fee for municipalities, I mean, that's a concern. And now you're going to have additional training that's going to be needed, perhaps additional officers, a whole new realm of dangers that could come with the legalization of recreational marijuana.
The wife and the kids must be happy to see you, and it's good to have you back in the district with us.
Thanks.
You've got some events coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I do, and I'm going to have to look, because we've been really working hard to try and get out there to make opportunities for me to meet with constituents, and I have been in Harrisburg a lot, especially for a freshman meeting on appropriations. But here's some of the things we have upcoming. On Thursday, March 21st, we will have an open house at our Homer City office, which is in the Homer City Borough Building. That's going to be from 2 to 5 p.m. Then the following week at our Blairsville office, which is on Main Street, it's March 28th. That's Thursday from 2 to 5 p.m. And then we're going to start a series of town hall meetings. I know that's real big, especially in some of the outlying communities. I want to make sure that the voice of the people is being heard. I want to make sure that I understand the needs and concerns of everyone out there that I represent. So our first town hall meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd in Armagh. That's going to be at the Armagh and East Wheatfield Fire Department. That's at 6 p.m. Again, Tuesday, April 2nd in Armagh. And then we have a town hall here in Indiana on April 24th at St. Andrews Village. Then in Blairsville on May 16th at the Blairsville Volunteer Fire Department. So that's our spring schedule for right now. And, of course, we're going to be talking tomorrow about the big school security summit that I'm working with the Indiana Area School District and some other school districts and the district attorney's office on for next week. So That's Friday. So there's a lot of good things happening, and I hope people can get out. Again, if you didn't catch all that stuff, go to my website, repstruzzi.com, or follow me on Facebook. We're really active on Facebook with a lot of good information. And you know how at the Chamber we did that weekly Friday email? I've started that as a state representative as well. So you can subscribe to our email, get a rundown of all the stuff that's happening in Harrisburg, bills that are being passed. I think it's very important. Again, I'm all about transparency. I want people to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and you know, stuff that we're not doing or we're opposing. So the weekly email has all the different events that we're having, plus a recap of what's happened that week in Harrisburg.
Let's get back over to Harrisburg. And the budget hearings take up so much of your time and so much of the legislative calendar. But there are other things going on. What are some of the proposals that you have heard that are of particular interest to you for this spring session of the legislature?
I will tell you that something very exciting, and I think this will be exciting to a lot of people in Indiana County, is that we are going to reintroduce House Bill 76, the elimination of property taxes. It's out for co-sponsorship right now, which I've been a co-sponsor of that as soon as it was introduced. There's a coalition, not a formal coalition, but a group of representatives from across the state who really want to work together to eliminate school property taxes. It's an issue in most areas. Some areas don't have it as an issue, but most areas do. So a group of us, and I've been trying to build this coalition with some of my fellow reps, really want to work hard to eliminate school property taxes. So we're reintroducing 76. Of course, it'll have a new bill number, but it'll be essentially the same, plus a number of other bills designed to work towards the elimination of school property taxes. That's a big one. Other ones, I've been working hard to address some of the issues that children and youth services have faced. I know that the Auditor General did a study, and I mentioned this during the budget hearings as well, on the state of the child and some of the issues that face children and youth services. So I'm working to try and craft some legislation to address some of the recommendations they had in that report. Of course, working with the local professionals here from the Armstrong, Indiana Clarion Drug and Alcohol Task Force to craft some legislation related to the opioid crisis to see what we can do to help with that. And then overall job creation, workforce development and job creation are a top priority for the Republican caucus going into this session. So we're crafting a number of bills that will help open the door towards more workforce development, more educational opportunities. So a number of big things that I talked about during the campaign, Todd, and I'm happy to say we're working to deliver.
Enough to keep a guy busy, huh?
Yeah. It's good stuff, though.
Absolutely. Well, we are actually going to be visiting with you and others on the safety seminar. We'll be doing that tomorrow off air and then airing it next week. But we're looking forward to that with a whole group of people. Thanks for coming in to visit with us this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
He is State Representative Jim Struzzi with us here this morning on the Voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.